I'm about to show you what exactly do you need for you to run Microsoft SQL Server on AWS. But my presentation is most likely based on architecturing and provisioning, troubleshooting. Just for your information, who am I? I am Jean-Joseph, as you can see. Um, uh, um, Kevin did a great job. He introduced me already. I am the founder of Cloud Data Data Driven Community. Under Data Driven Community, we have Cloud Data Driven, Feature Data Driven, and IT Management and Leadership. So if you guys, I do blogs sometimes. This is my blog, and then also this is my email. If you wanna get in touch with me, if you wanna connect with me in LinkedIn, this is me. I'm located in New Jersey, but originally from Haiti. I've been in IT, I would say 19 years. I started as a network administrator. Then I moved to database administration and development. After that, I moved to data engineering. So enough about me. This is what we will cover today. It's gonna be an introduction to AWS RDS, and I will have you. I make sure that that I give you enough information to know what kind of services they're offering, and then also how to provisions, which is very important. And then how can you leverage the built-in feature for high availability, read scale out, especially when it comes to in-region replica, and then backup, security, and monitoring. If I speak a little bit too fast, just let me know, because this is a 6 hours workshop, and I'm trying to give it in less than 60 to 90 minutes. Okay, and I will give you some key takeaways. By the way, what is AWS RDS? RDS stands for Relational Database Services. There's a tons of flavor. We have Microsoft, which is our main topic for today. We have Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, and MariaDB. On top of those, there's another flavor called Aura, as you can see here. Aura have two different flavors, which is MySQL and PostgreSQL. Okay, and these are AWS Cloud Citizen. Why do you have to worry me about, for example, RDS? RDS make administration easy. So that's mean it's easy to deploy. AWS maintain the hardware, OS, and software installation, and there's a tons of and administration as well. There's a tons of built-in monitoring. And then also it makes it, so for example, performance and scalable. For example, you're able to scale compute and storage with a few clicks and with minimal downtime for your application. Not only that, it's allow you to, for example, configure some high availability, and also it is doable. So that's when you can set up multi-AZ data replication. You have automated backup, you have a snapshot and failover. And then when it comes to security, they provide great security like data encryption address and in transit. There's industry compliance and assurance program. So here's the thing, guys. Our topic is for SQL Server. We're gonna focus on SQL Server, but these are all kind of options if you want to. So what are the RDS deployment options? There is the first deployment option is the default one. There is RDS. For example, if your application does not depend on any third-party application that require OS to be customized, you have to think of RDS. But if your application depend on, if you need access to the OS, yes, you can go with RDS custom, because like SharePoint, when you're installing and configuring SharePoint, you will need to run a tons of script at the OS level to configure it. So that's when, if you need access to the OS, you have to think of RDS custom. There's another one, what called hybrid. The hybrid is the one that, for example, specifically for data residency and latency. So that's mean there's two flavors. For RDS on VMware, that supported on premises, where they use VMware vSphere. So that's where you can, let's say if you have an application where there is a regulation, the data have to reside inside of your data center. So that's mean you have to think of the hybrid one. The VM would be great because the data will reside on your data center. The VM is great, for example, for just data residency. Even it will increase latency as well. So that's when you're gonna get better latency than if you choose the regular one. Okay, but if your application rely for if your application is sensitive, for example, to network and this latency, and then that's when you have to think of Outposts. Outpost comes with two flavors as well. There's Outpost Server, okay, and then there's WAC. Okay, the Outpost Server comes with two versions. There's a 1U, there's 2U servers. What happened? So let's say if your application is like a financial application such as trading and brokerage, or for example, if it's a security fraud that require a quick response times, so you have to think of Outposts. If you have large data center, you have to think of RAC. If you have, what I like now about RAC is that you can extend RAC as an AWS region. So what happened? AWS will ship this to you. You can have everything maintained there. But if you have space or you want your data, you want to resolve latency and then data residency, that's when you have to think of this one, right? Both of them are the same, except that Outpost RAC, it's like you extend AWS region, and then it is the same. I have a tons of link for you guys to do research. When you download this slide deck, you will be able to do that. So guess what happened? You can, these are RDS, but that doesn't mean you cannot deploy SQL Server on EC2. EC2 is just like our regular way. Like, let's say we have a VM. Instead of we run that VM on top of our hardwares, and then we use AWS data center to do that. We have to maintain the OS patching. We have to install the DB maintenance. You have, for example, to patch it, maintain your backup, availability, and scaling. Okay, whereas when it comes to RDS, so you don't have to do nothing because it is AWS managed. So that's been it gives you access to focus on business tasks, especially if you do not have people that good when it comes to administration. So that might be a good one for you. So I have this just for example to show you sometimes what you want to do and then when to choose RDS versus EC2. When it comes to license included, both of them have that. If you want to bring your own license, RDS used to support that. Now they don't support it anymore. When it comes to full control over the instance, you can only get that on EC2. However, if you're looking for managed instance, like manage multi-AZ deployment, manage multi-scale out, and then automate ability to scale computer and storage, that's when you have to think of RDS. As our presentation is strictly based on SQL Server, that's where we're gonna focus. These are, for example, the features and options that are made available. For example, there is accelerated database recovery. You have intelligent query processing. They support intelligent performance features like reusable indexes. And then also they support reporting services, analysis services, integration services, distributed system. And then the good thing is you can back up your database to S3. Why this is important? There's a big difference between automated backup, snapshot, because both of them are instance-based. So if you have to restore from a from any automated backup or snapshot, you have to think of instance-based. But some application, sometimes their feature depend on the latest data. If you want to restore one database, and then on top of your database, based on the version, you can have up to 30 to 100. You don't want to restore the whole instance. You can just issue that backup and dump it to S3, which I'm about to demo as well. And then they do support that where you will be able to split the backup file into multiple files. That will allow you to bypass the limitation of AWS S3 object size, because any object should not go higher than 5 terabytes. So if you have a database that is 30 terabyte, it is not an issue now because they support that you can split the backup file. And then when you split it, that will not only, bypass S3 limitations, object size, it will speed up your backup processing as well. It supports Active Directory. Now they are probably recently last 1 year. I would say they supported a SQL Server database mail. Okay, so now here's the thing, guys. What would be the prerequisite to deploy SQL Server for production? What would be? So this is where your architecture comes from. Okay, your architecture has to base first of all on you application team, data engineering team, and then cloud architect team need to be involved since day one, because you need to know, for example, what business want to achieve. You have to understand what exactly they want to do, why they want to deploy this. Is it related to cost saving? Is it related to performance? What exactly they want to do? Is it a brand new application? Is it something that we have in-house? What to do? And then once you collect what business want to do, you need to know the location. The reason why I'm saying this, I have seen people blindly, business need a database, they blindly go and select any region without knowing exactly where 60 or 70% of the customer are located. You need that information, because before you deploy any services on the cloud, the first thing they ask you is the region, because latency matter. I understand there's ways you can bring it closer to your target location, but there's gonna be a cost involved. And then also you will need to, that will allow you to provision SQL Server with the correct collation, because after you deploy SQL Server, the collation and the time zone, you cannot change this. You have to do this. There will be a downtime because you're going to have to restore SQL Server from a snapshot or from a backup. Okay, so the third thing, you need to know the data privacy. How sensitive is the data? Can that data go outside of Europe? Can that data go outside of Africa? Can that data, go outside of America? You need to understand, because you don't want to go and implement a great architecture, whereas government have to run after you after that because you violate laws. Okay, and then you need to know what kind of encryptions you have to use. Is it in-transit encryption? Do you want to use encryption at rest? You need to know how sensitive also is the data, and then what would be the PNCO. For example, how much data can we lose? How much downtime can we afford? This is where you have to think of designing and implementing your high availability and disaster recovery, because you cannot use your own knowledge and experience to implement that. Each application have their own requirement. Okay, and then you have to know the backup retention, because backup retention is very useful, because I have worked with some application where the retention has to be 10 years, and then whereas on the cloud, I am familiar very well with Azure and AWS. They go up to 35 days. I'm not sure about anything else, like Google. I have never used it, but you can go up to 35 days. If the retention is, for example, 1 year, you will need to come up with a way to design that and prevent your backup file not to delete it after 1 year. And then also you need to think of performance. Well, you know, how should we design the environment, which we're gonna talk later. Okay. And then once you collect this information, these informations are the one that will normally define the application functionalities. And the application functionalities, application team understand business much better. You need to know how the application team will implement, will communicate with your data, because the application functionality will define the kind of services, the database that need to be implemented. Okay, so but for you, based on the business, based on the information you collected from business, you have to understand, should we have our database provision under its own networking? So that's called like VPC. And then who would be the DB subnet? For example, what subnet and IP range that DB can use in your VPC that you selected. There's gonna be about security group. The security group is just like your firewall, okay? So that's mean by default, all inbound are not allowed. So you have to, if your application depend on a specific port, they have to let you know that and then work with cloud architect or infrastructure team to have this enabled. And then there's what called parameter groups. Parameter groups is exactly what we call SP configure. This is where you will be able to, for example, enable any kind of features, for example, that is available within Sql Server with the help of Sql, with the help of SP configure. So once this is done, you need to know the options group. Here's the thing, guys. The option groups is what will allow you. Let's say if the application team say we will have to use SSIS, this is where you will be able to enable SSIS. This is where option group will allow you to enable SSIS, distributed transaction, integration services, and then also reporting services. Not only that, it is the one that will allow you to, that will allow Sql Server to back up to S3. So let's say you collect all the information, okay? This is where things come a little bit tricky. You collect all kind of information, you know what to do, you go, so now you are about to go and, for example, design your infrastructure. Okay, the first thing you have to know, after you identify business requirement, you will need to do research on that information, because same thing can be done with different technology, but what would be best when it comes to performance and cost saving? And then you have to give them a proposal. The proposal, I normally give them two. One that is where cost is number one priority. Performance and availability are second priority, and then another one where performance and availability are number one priority and cost is second priority. And then you have to review and test your plan. So, and here's the thing, you cannot do it by yourself. This is the whole team. Okay, let's say, for example, now we get all the information, business happy, and then they said we want to go with the cost one because we don't want to spend too much money. So now you have to go on AWS. Okay, you will have, for example, to create your environment. Okay, they said, okay, the cost is the one that matter. This is your region, as you can see here. This is your availability zone, which is your data center. This is your private network. And then this is your private hosted, that's RAD 53. And then this is your private subnet. It is well secure, so good. So guess what happened? During the maintenance, there's downtime, and then business say, no, things are going well, and people are complaining, and we don't want to lose money. How can we prevent downtime? So once, so because you already give them two, for example, proposal. One was for cost and one was for performance and availability. All you have to do now is go with the one that have cost and availability. Do some research because things are changing every day, guys. While I'm speaking, things may change. Information that I'm sharing with you may not be valid after, so that's when let's say we've done some research, we see what technology would be best and how best we can modify this. We send it back to business approve it, and then we implement a high availability system. Okay, so what we see here, we have an always on here, and then this is 2016 onward. It is a synchronous commit. As you can see, this is the physical replication from primary cluster to secondary cluster, and then you have automatic failover. So, and then this is what we call multi-AZ deployment that provide high availability. The downside is, if you're looking at right 53, we have two endpoints. They both are white here. One is active and the other one is inactive. This is active and then this is inactive. So that's when there's no read traffic. So let's say business happy. So now reporting services point to that. So many jobs, batch processing, for example, data science teams using it. They're doing a tons of machine learning against that to do some analysis against that data. So now guess what happened? Performance matter. So this is where, when you know the location, you select your region. As you can see, region is the first. So now AWS been, I think for a couple months, if I'm not mistaken, guys, support what we call in-region replica. So now you can go and deploy one in-region read replica where you will offload your reporting services to that. And then you will, for example, have this guy for all kind of batch processing. But one thing you have to know, it is logical replica. So any processes that require latest data, I would highly suggest you to leave it point to the to your cluster. But anything that is okay, if 1 or 2 minutes data behind, there's a lag. So you have to point it to your read in-region read replica endpoint. So it is the same architecture. The downside is you have to, it should be under Enterprise Edition, and it is asynchronous, and you can have up to 5 replica. So if, of course, is not an issue, so guess what happened? You can boost performance because all read will go to that in-region read endpoint replica instead of they go to your cluster, primary cluster. And then the downside also, it has to be in the same region as the primary one. But the good thing is you can promote this. So let's say let's go the other way around. Let's say if this is the architecture we had before, business realized that this is too costly for us. They don't want this. You can deploy one in-region replica, promote all the when you think the data is 100% synchronized, disconnect the application, make sure the data is 100% in sync between the read replica and the primary cluster. You can shut down this one and promote this as a standalone. Okay, but everything here was for high availability. Okay, when it comes to disaster recovery and local performance, you have to think of a different architecture. This is the same architecture, guys. As you can see, this is a secondary replica. This is a primary secondary region and primary region. So you use this for disaster recovery and local performance, where you will have a VPC pairing that's gonna maintain the connection between both of them. I'm preparing this session, for example, I'm presenting this session to another user group, and they want me to also add something related to like OS, high availability. I have never done it, but I did some research. I added, and I said, why not share it with my user group here as well? And if I have to use it, And that's the best way based on the research that I did. So, and then we can use FSX. And then I don't want to go too deep, but you guys have the architecture, and then there's a tons of link next to each slide if you guys want to go and do some research. Here's the thing, guys. The reason why I spend so much time in the architecturing, because the architecturing is the key. So when business tell you the RPO and RTO, you need to know what's driving it. So guess what happened? If availability and performance driving it, you guys good, because if you use multi-AZ, there will be zero data loss. But when it comes to a failover, there's something called time to connect, which we're gonna talk me about. So there's gonna be about 1 to 2 minutes. If you use replica promotion in region, it is you may lose minutes of data, but the downtime would be, for example, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. If you use point in time um, uh, recovery, so in region using automated backup, you will lose about 5 minutes of data. Can business afford that? If costs matter, can business afford that? So the downtime could be minutes and hours. If you use, for example, cross region using automated backup for point in time recovery, you can lose between up to 20 minutes of data. You can lose. And then the recovery time is still in minutes and hours. But if you go with the cheapest option, what I have seen people done, but they never let business aware of that. If you use, for example, snapshot restore, so you can, the potential data loss is hours. You understand? It could be hours. You understand? And then the recovery is still minutes and hours. So here's the thing, guys. Here's what I want you to understand. Even though business want to have zero downtime, but there's something called failover time. Failover time when time to reconnect. This is a screenshot that I took because I was doing some research. There is a guy at reInvent 2021 showing this, and I feel like I have to bring this me as well. Let's go to the failover reason. If you use manual failover for MIWA DNS primary, you have up to 70 seconds to time to reconnect. If you use always on with primary DNS, you have between 30 to 40. But if you use listener, you have between 5 to 7 seconds to reconnect. So that's mean always go with the best options for your application. And then if you use, if the failover reason is, for example, because the primary SQL Server crash, for MIWA and always on with primary DNS, you have up to 40 seconds to reconnect. And then for listener, you have up to 9 seconds to reconnect. If this is related to primary server network disconnection, so you have up to 110 seconds, sorry, not minute, guys, second, up to 110 seconds, for example, to reconnect. So that, and this is for both of them. If you're using listener, it is up to 35 seconds. But this does not include crash recovery time. So that's mean crash recovery time is not included. So that's why it would be best to turn on multi-subnet failover is equal to true. But here's the thing, all of this that I was talking about, there's ways you can bypass that. There's something called AWS proxy. AWS proxy make it seamless and faster failover. So that's when it allows you to share database connection between transaction with multiplexing. It allows application connection preserve doing failover. Not only that, when a failover occurs, guess what happened? It is quickly go and connect to the standby server. It bypassed the DNS cache, and then it is up to 66% faster. It provides 66% faster failover time. So how does it work? Let's say this is your AWS RDS proxy. This is your application. Instead of, for example, you have your application connect directly to your primary cluster endpoint, you can have it connect to your proxy. And then the proxy maintain the connection. What I like about the proxy, if for application 1, there's a connection open, and application 2 request to connect. If that connection is available and then that request is trusted, the proxy is smart enough to use that same connection. And when they fail over occur, the application does not know nothing. The proxy maintain that. So whatever I was saying early, it depends on how you architect your environment, because the architecture matter. Everything, your database, your cloud database infrastructure should drive by 2 things: business requirement and application functionalities. Okay, so just for information, one more time, the AWS proxy is very useful for session state when it comes to disconnection and performance. So now, here's where I want you to be clear. When it comes to high availability, you have to think of multi-AZ. When it comes to local performance and disaster recovery, you have to think of region deployment. When it comes to scalability, you have to think of read replica. So guys, I think that's what I have for you. Let me share my other screen. So this way we can go to some demo. Give me 1 second. Let me share another screen. Just bear with me. Give me 1 second. As I said, Kevin, let me know if you see my screen.
Not yet. There we go. Amazon.
Okay, perfect. So guys, once you log into Amazon, as I said, I have internet issue. I'm using a public thing, so I have to go and open everything for you there. Okay, let me see. Can I hide this? Can I hide this, guys? Do you guys know how can I hide this? Because I'm gonna need that. Okay, perfect. Oh, perfect. So let's say when you go to services, because we're gonna focus on RDS. This is RDS, correct? Once you click on RDS, this is the dashboard you're gonna get. As you can see, this is database. This is query editor that is not enabled for SQL Server. It is for Aura. We have performance insight. We have snapshot. Performance insight is what would I say? Is just like any thread monitoring tool, like Soloing, Dynatrace. What would I say? Like Redgate. You understand? And then the snapshot, this is what will allow you to take a snapshot. This is the automate backup. And then if you want reserve instance, this is the proxy that I was talking about. That's the subnet that I mentioned, the parameter groups, the option groups. This is the custom availability zone. And these are the custom made engine versions. So let's say if there's in your version available, you're gonna see it. And then this is the event, all kind of thing. And then these are the recommendation and the certificate. I don't wanna click on them because I already add them here for you because I have internet issue, guys. When we click on this one, we're gonna get this. This is what we're gonna get. Okay, so when we get this one, as you can see, this is Aurora, which is AWS Cloud Citizen. We have MySQL, Postgres, Oracle. We have SQL Server. Within the SQL Server, this is what I was telling you. The database management tab, they have two. They have RDS and RDS Custom. We spoke about that. These are the editions that they supported. They supported all editions: SQL Server, SQL Server Web Edition, SQL Server Standard Edition. They supported Enterprise Edition. Okay, and then this is the license. So this is where for in our case, if you need the edition, Web Edition, you click on it. You need Standard, you need Enterprise. Or in our case, we're gonna try Express because it's gonna be very cheap. And then here is where you will select the version. If you want SQL Server 2014, if you want 2016, if you want 2017, if you want 2019. Perfect. So, and then this is where you will, for example, have the database name. How would you like to name your DB instance? That's the identifier. This is the credential. This is a kind of your admin credential. If you want AWS generate the password, they can do that, but I would highly suggest you to follow your enterprise policy. So that's the password. So the DB instance class is, for example, the size of your VM. As you can see, if I go with DB3 medium, I'm gonna have 2 vCPU, 4 gig of RAM. And then the larger size I go, the more money. Okay. So when it comes to storage, they supported general purpose and provision IOPS SSD, which we're gonna talk before we end. There's gonna be magnetic. So you select the type of, because if you know the latency and the throughput the business expect from you, these are the elements that will allow you to find out or guess what would be the best storage type. And then this is the storage allocation. If I want it to be 100 gigs, that's gonna be great. But as I'm using Express Edition, there's a limitation of 10 gig if I'm not mistaken. And then you can, this is where you enable auto, like storage auto scaling. Let's say if you're about to run out of space, if this is enabled, it's gonna go and increase it. And then this is the maximum. It's gonna just go and increase it. Okay, so if you're looking at for connectivity, this is your virtual private cloud. You will normally define it based on the information you collected from business. I would highly suggest you to, if the data is sensitive, have the DB, create under its own VPC, because after you deploy it or you provision it, you won't be able to change it. And then for the subnet, you have to define that as well. Okay. And then do you want it to be public and none? And do you want it to be private? So this is where you're gonna do it. So for security groups, this is what you're gonna choose, the security group that you wanna use, or if you wanna create one. But you will normally create one and then choose the existing one. If you have it and you have the information from you, you do have the access to do that. And then this is the availability zone. Do you want it to be in US 1? Okay, as you can see, the location matter. Not only that, the location matter is that time also matter, and I'm gonna show you. If we click on additional information, if you do not want SQL Server to run under 1433, that's where you can change it. And then if you want to enable Windows authentication, this is where you will be able to do it. For additional information, which I would highly suggest you to do that, because you cannot modify the default parameter group, because the parameter group is your SP configure, whatever you need to, for example, whatever you want to, whatever feature you want to enable using SP configure, that's the only place you can do it. If I click here, let me give me 1 second. Where do I have it? I think I have it somewhere, but let me carry on and I will show you the options group. Let me finish. Let me quickly finish this so I can close this. Give me 1 second. So this is the parameter groups. As you can see, this is parameter groups that I was saying during the creation. Let's say if you want to enable CLR, you just enable CLR. But there's one thing you have to understand. The modifier both is what you will need to pay attention, because if it's false, you cannot change it. How can you change it? You click here and then you select this one, edit parameter. You change the value from 0 to 1. That's when you enable it. Let's say if you want to enable, if you want to change what we call cost ratio for parallelism, this is where you will be able to do it, because 5 is too low. It doesn't matter because right now SQL Server, if you want to maintain your, maintain your parallelisms, this is not really related to performance tuning, but this is where you can go and increase that. And I would highly suggest you, after you deploy this, if this is a production, leave it between 25 to 30. If this is on a data, you will use it for a data warehouse, put it like 50, even to 70 won't hurt. And then you already know, for example, your environment. If you know your workload, you can also change this, because sometimes the default could be good, but not all the time. Okay, this is, for example, for the SP configure. So this is where you're gonna go. But here's the thing, when you're creating your parameter group, it would be best to give the extension. That's for naming. I don't want to stay there too much. Okay, for options group, like if you're looking at here, they ask me for options group. The options group is the one that will allow me to back up to SQL Server, use SSIS, use reporting services. The options group, if you're looking at here, if you want to create the parameter group, sorry about that. This is, once you click here, it will give you this one. You will need, for example, to provide, for the version, do you want it for enterprise version for 2012? Yeah, 14 for I think this is 2014, 15, but I don't remember. You guys get the point, what version you want. So once you say create, and then this is done. So I think I'm done with this because I don't have good network. Okay, when it comes to options group, this is the option groups. If you click on options group, it will give you this, the create one. You're gonna type the name, and then you're gonna choose the engine. Do you want it for MariaDB, MySQL, Oracle? Do you want it for SQL Server, MySQL Server Express? If I click on SQL Server Express, and then guess what happened? It will go and give me what version that I want to use, the major version. So if I select this, I click create, I have it. After you put create, guess what happened? I create two just to show you. This is for Express Edition, where I enable backup to S3, okay? If I said add options, guess what happened, guys? Just pay attention. I hope my internet goes well. Let's see, guys. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So you, the only thing you have, you can, on the Express Edition, you can enable MSDTC. You can enable SQL Server audit and backup. Okay, you can enable backup to S3, auditing, SQL Server auditing, and then transaction, distributed transaction. However, if you choose standard and enterprise edition, this is enterprise edition. If I click on add options, you will get more data. This is where, when you collect the information with business, you will, those information is the one that will help you drive the architecture. Because if cost matter, and then the application will need SSIS, you will tell business, if business say our database is very small, we want to start with SQL Express because it's very cheap, from $35 monthly to $205 to $2,500 monthly. So I want to go with the Express. But if the application require SSIS to be enabled, require, for example, analysis services, integration services, and require transparent data encryption, it is not available on the Express edition. You have to tell them to go either standard or enterprise editions. So, okay, so let's say, for example, we provide that because you know the location, guys, you will be able to select the correct time, okay? You know the time zone that work for you. Okay, so guess what happened? Because you know the location, you will be able to provide the correct collation, because this cannot be changed after you enable them. This is, for example, where you will, if you want automated backup, If you do not want it, you can disable it. And guess what happened? For Express Edition, it's the maximum is 7, but you can go all to 35 if you use Standard and Enterprise Edition. That's for the backup retention. And then this is if you want to select your Windows, your backup Windows. Okay, if you want to select your backup Windows, this is where you will select it. You're gonna just click on this. Let's go. I have good internet. Okay, and then for the maintenance, this is for Performance Insight. If you wanna enable it, okay. This is for the retention. If you're looking at here for if you want to create a long-term retention, let's say if your application requires, for example, under enterprise, you can go, or you cannot go beyond 2 years. If your application is business want your backup file to be available for 2 years, so this is where you're gonna select long-term retention. But if business say that that retention should be, for example, for 10 years, you automatically see we cannot choose, for example, Express Edition. So these are the information. They are very valuable if they want to use what kind of KMS key they want to use. Do we want to enter our own or use the default one? Guess what happened? You can change this after you enable Performance Insight. Just put that in your mind. You cannot change it after you enable Performance Insight. Okay, for monitoring, always, if this is a production, I know there might be a slide of, money for enhanced monitoring, but it won't hurt. I always want to get it from 0. What this one gives you, this one will give you access to get information from the OS. Okay, and then you can define your role, whatever. You can create your own. If you want to monitor for deadlocks, for some kind of word messages from Sql Server, and you want to get instant notification, I would highly suggest you to enable this. And I'm going to show you where you can go from Cloudwatch, where you can go to maintain that. Okay, if you want to have to get patch automatically with minor version, this is what you're gonna update this. This is where the location matter as well, because during the location you may end up to have a bit of downtime. Okay, and then this is where you will need to choose the correct time. Okay, that matter for you, because it's always best to leave it UTC. This is what AWS mentioned. However, these are the, if you want it to be on Saturday or Sunday, it's up to you. But one thing, you cannot select the Windows time that is in the same Windows with the backup. So if there is no preference, which I would not suggest you, for production, you have to, explicitly mention it. Okay. If you do not want your instance to be deleted, this is where you're gonna check this. If you check this, before you delete this instance, you have to modify it. So these are the estimate, $43, and then and then once you click create, guess what happened? It will redirect you to this gonna say, okay, create, and then after that it's gonna say, rebooting. The status will change until you get that. And then this is for Performance Insights. Now I already explained it. If I click on this guy and I go here, it's gonna give me this. Okay, so you will see for connectivity, what do you see? We see the endpoint. The endpoint is what will allow us to connect. We can clearly see the network that is being using. It's using US East 1F data center. You can clearly see the VPC and the kind of subnet. Okay, for VPC security go, we can see what is currently working. I left my public just because I was having a hard time, and then I don't want to pay too much money to have a direct connection between AWS and my local machine, because there's no need for that. This is a demo, just a presentation. So, but this, if it's okay for the application to have a public file, but this will always be private. So if I click on monitoring, where the cool stuff happening, you're gonna get this. When you get this guy, guess what happened? You have Cloudwatch, which is right there, okay? And then you have enhanced monitoring. Enhanced monitoring is information may not be 100% the same like Cloudwatch, because Cloudwatch most likely application related to your application, like it gives you information about SQL Server. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think you have information about the OS too much, except the CPU usage and everything, right? But if you want, because we enable enhanced monitoring, if I click on enhanced monitoring, I hope I have internet speed to do that. If you're looking at the CPU usage is different, the memory. If I go back to Cloudwatch, you will see it's giving you a different matrix. Sometimes when you're troubleshooting, things happen, you have that enable, you can clearly see the spot. For example, I can see, you know, the CPU utilization, the free storage, the variable, and I can see the swap. The swap, I always take a look. You know, it may not be valid for SQL Server, but I always take a look because it has such information. You guys can do research on this. There's a tons of metrics that within my slide deck I have. You guys can do some research. You can see, for example, the credit balance and the usage. You can see the network transmissions, throughput, and you can get all the information. And then if I go, for example, I can see what kind of OS process list that is running. I can take a look at them. And then I can also go to Performance Insight, where I can see the process that was running and get access to the query, which I'm about to do. And then for Cloudwatch, for example, this is Cloudwatch. Okay, so when you go to Cloudwatch, if you wanna, this is what you're gonna get. If you want, for example, to create some alarm, this is where you're gonna click, for example, on in alarm. You're gonna get this one. When you get this one, okay, you will say create. So when you say create, so what will happen? It will give you this one. Give me 1 second. Okay, so it seems like, let me click on create. I hope, for example, yeah, when you say create, so guess what happened? It gives you to select the matrix. When you click on select matrix, these are the matrix you are allowed to. Do you want it at the EC2 level? That's what you want. But us, we want it to be RDS. When we click on RDS, and then I like it to be across all databases. And then when you click on all databases, you can clearly see the matrix. You can see CPU credit, CPU usage, CPU utilization. If you click on CPU utilizations, okay, you can troubleshoot it there. You can quickly see that, okay? So now, if I say select this matrix, when I say select this matrix, so guess what happened? I need, if the CPU is the CPU go above 80%, I will need to be notified. So I'm gonna leave, if it stay, let's say, for example, a good, if you have a process that keep CPU usage above 80%, more than 1 minute, you wanna get notified. This is exactly what this one said. Whatever been running for over 10, keep the CPU usage for 1 minute. So I want to get notified. So these are the things. Do you want it to be greater than 80%? If I say 80, or do you want it to be, for example, greater or equal, lower or equal or lower? So once you say that, you select it. So this is where it's gonna ask you to select the you know, the notification. You know, who do you want to notify? If you did not have any notification, you will have to create it. You will give it a name. For example, hi SQL Server, high CPU usage. Like, you can create a group notification like that, or spot above 90%, or you can give it that name, and then you can create the group of database administrator that need to have access to this one. And then you're gonna say create this you're gonna say next. You don't have to create a topic. You will say next. However, I already created for you. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say demo alarm. So when I say demo alarm, and then if I say next, I will give it a name. Do you understand? So the name could be a SQL Server CPU Spark above 80%, and you can give it description, action have to be taken, and then you click next. Once you click next, for example, let me put test demo, and then if I say next, and then it will ask me to review the conditions and make sure that I am in line with it and create it, which I already did. So this is one way. If you want, for example, to create if you want to create triggers whenever there is a deadlock occur, as you can see here, I did the demo. Unfortunately, I don't think I have enough bandwidth to give you enough demo, but what you have to do, you have to click on log groups, because this one will allow you to create a tons of notification whenever, based on what you need. Whenever things happen, you're gonna quickly get notified. Yeah, I know this. I hope this one goes well. Yeah, let's see. You have to click on the AWS RDS instance cloud data driven. This is your instance name. That's the new. That's the one that I'm demo. If you click here, okay, and then you have to click on matrix, and then you have to say create matrix, and then you put deadlock here. Okay. So if you want a specific pattern, as you can see, you can check some specific pattern. This is not really related to troubleshooting, but these are the things that you can do just for your information. And then if you click next, guess what happened? Let's call it deadlocks again. And then the filter name has to be deadlock. And then you can name this, for example, SQL deadlock. This namespace, so this way other people can use it. You're gonna call it deadlock, say again, and then the value has to be 1. And then guess what happened? This is optional. It's up to you, whatever you wanna do. This is a little bit more advanced, and then you review it, you create it. Once you create it, let's say if I create it, I'm not sure how long it's gonna take. Let's hope it's taking. Let's give me 1 second. Hold on. Let me go to matrix first, because you will need to create the alarm. Okay, so that's fine. But after this, you have to check it. Let me see if I can refresh it one more time. Give me 1 second. Log. Yep. And then let's see. So if you're looking at this one, if I click here, I can, for example, stream it, but I need to create on alarms, but for some reason I'm not able to see it. There must be a way for me to just check this and create that alarm, but that's fine. But here's the thing, this is what you can do. And if you want the data for after 12 hours, you know, 2 weeks, 1 week, you can customize it as well. It's up to you. Okay, so now guess what happened, guys? This is where we left off. Okay, that we left off on monitoring. So after monitoring, what do we see? We have performance, we have log and configuration. The configuration, let's see if I can quickly get this guy. The logs is that it will give you access to download the log file from here. As you can see, I can read it as well. If I say read, I can read it. Wash, I can download it. Wash will give you the latest information. And then what else? For configuration, this is what you're gonna get. And then it will give you all the configuration, the DB instance ID, the version, and then the license. It is included the collation, and then the options group that you are using, the Amazon resource name. You understand? It gives you how many CPU you have, how much RAM, the availability, the username, And then do we have Monsiezi on all of this, right? And then we have Cloudwatch error, and then we can see, for example, if something stopped, we're gonna get some alert. But guess what happened, guys? For maintenance and backup, you can see it as well. This is where you will determine your maintenance and backup. Okay, so now I have, what else I haven't done that you guys probably need. I explained all of this. For performance insight, let me go with performance insight. I just see okay. I can do performance insight later, but let me show you. For performance insight, it gives you a clear understanding of what needs to be done. You understand? What was done on top of your server. So now I know we are above, as you can see, this is the query. You can see the top username and everything, but let me quickly run some of the script. For example, let me get familiar. So if you want to back up SQL Server to S3, there's three things you have to think of. First of all, you will need a bucket to store that backup, and you have to create a role and for SQL Server to be able to access that bucket. And then you need to create an options code because you have to enable SQL Server to be able to back up to S3. Okay, so let's say we done this, and then to back up, this is what we're gonna use: SQL Server backup database. Okay, this is for things that you have to know doing the maintenance and or while taking a snapshot. You cannot issue any backup, it will fail. Okay, so you have to put the, as you can see, the name are required, and then the location is required, and then if you want to encrypt it, this is how you can do it. If you want to override the existing file, you have to put this is equal to 1. 0 is the default. It will not override it. It supports two kind of backup: differential and full. Okay, so now let's say, for example, if you want to enable S3 backup compression, this is the command that you're gonna execute. Let's get familiar to this environment. If you're looking at this, is it okay? This is the database that we currently have, and then this is RDS. RDS admin is the database that created by default anytime when you provision a new SQL Server. So now, if you're looking at, let's get some more information. Okay, if you're looking at, we can get some information related to the backup thing. Okay, we can see the type of backup. So now let's do some work. In order for us to back up to S3 after we provision it, I have this database, as you just saw, the database cloud driven, and I'm gonna back it up to this location. If you're looking at here, give me 1 second. You will see this location, that's the S3, give me 1 second. You will see this location have only one backup file. I'm about to back up another one that have a different name. It's gonna call cloud data driven 010622. If I execute this one, there will be a task created. That task, sorry guys, that is created will provide me a task ID. That task ID is 22. The task ID is the one that allow me to know, the progress of the backup that I just issued. If you're looking at it, says created. And then if I go a little bit deeper, I can quickly query this one to get the status of my backup. How many, this has to be in progress. I may not get any data return. Let's wait until this one say it is in progress. It is created. It might take a bit of second because I'm using a very poor internet bundle. Yeah, as you can see, it is in progress. So if I go and execute this, guys, it will go and give me, let's see. the progress, unless if this is completely done, it might be done. Because what happened, even though if you see this in progress, they have to issue the backup locally to that server and then move that backup to your S3. So that's mean let's wait until this one say it is complete. In the meantime, Kevin, if there are any questions, because I'm not sure, because this should be done. You know, I have internet bandwidth issue. So if there are any questions, feel free to let me know.
Actually, I don't see any questions, but I'd actually have a question myself. How much do you see a normal, when I say normal, I mean a normal setup of SQL Server running per month? Is that in the normally $500 range per month or $2,000 range per month?
It depends on the version you selected and the amount of workload. I don't think I can give you a real estimate because your workload will define. Because here's the thing, when you're bringing data in, it is free, but when you bring it out, there's a cost. You understand? And then the version, each version have a specific price. I'm not sure, for example, if I will be able to get that, to prove that to you. If you're looking at for the estimate, it is, for example, $43. If I selected enterprise editions, it's gonna be, the price could be $2,500, the estimate. This is just the estimate, you understand? Let's hope that I will be able to do this. Let's extend that. Let's see. But I have, yeah, so that's the thing. Okay. It seems like the internet didn't even give me the estimate, but yeah, the thing is, I'm not sure if this is related to a network bandwidth, but we should see the estimate. It's gonna tell us, but I already checked it. I think it's gonna be like for enterprise, like close to 2,500. That's just the estimate.
Cool.
Let's see if the backup is done. Let's refresh this. As you can see, cloud data driven being backed up. Okay. So guess what happened? If, for example, you want to use a differential backup, this is what you will use. It's gonna take time, guys, and I will share the script with you. I have a tons of script for you, but yeah, this is like 6 hours workshop, so I'm trying to give it into like 60 to 90 minutes. I hope you guys understand. If you're looking at here, if you want to back up, let's say if your database is, for example, 24 gigabyte, terabyte. So that's when you cannot issue the backup using a single file. You have to split it because S3 have a limitation of 5 terabyte object, 5 terabyte size per object. So the best way you can do it is to use this one. For example, if you're looking at this, we'll go to a different directory. Let me go to that directory. So this way we're all on the same page. Let me go here. I hope I have, let's see. Oh, I tried. But anyway, let me issue that, because if there's no data, it will not show. If I issue that, it's gonna go and split SQL Server into, split the data into 5 different files. And you guys already used to that, yeah? So it gives us a task ID. If we query that task ID, it's gonna be 3. The task ID is 3. Am I correct? So let's execute this. Yep. If you, it is creating. Yep. So if you want to restore, guys, let me quickly restore. To restore, this is what you will use, and we don't have time. We're already 17 minutes over. So if you want to, for example, restore, this is what we use. For example, as you, if I query, let me bring a new thing here. If I query, select name from sys.databases. From sys.databases, you want to see, for example, DemoDB, okay? You want to see DemoDB. If I go and restore the latest backup that I just issued, let's check this out. There's another one created. Let me check. Yep. So if we check, we give it sometimes, you will see that. Let me see if this is completed. So this way we can check for the backup file. Is it completed? Let's see. Okay, this is completed. If we go and then we refresh this one, let's see if we can refresh it. So, but for some reason, give me 1 second. If we go, we refresh this one for multiple files, you will see like this is what we just issued now. We split it into 5 files. Yeah. And then if we want to restore this, I think we must be able to get the restore right. Should be done by now. Let's see. Let's query this one more time and see if we get the new one, DemoDB. You can see there is DemoDB. It's already restored. So these are the comments that you guys can use. You understand? And then all the requirements, information that you guys need, they are there. And one more thing that I want you to understand, if you want, for example, to restore a database, let's say you want to say restore database with recovery. Let's say if there is something happen where you're going to have to restore your full and but you do not want your full to be in a recovery mode. And then once you're done with your differential or your log file, you want to go and issue just a restore database with recovery. So for you to do that, if you want to do with no recovery, you have to put it 1. You restore it with 1. Okay, for example, let me issue this. I don't think we have time, so give me 1 second. So guess what happened? The database will not be in a recovery mode. But what you can do, once this is done, to finalize it, this is just like when you say restore database, that's the database name with recovery. So to make the database accessible, this is what the POC you have to use. This is very useful when it comes to disaster recovery. So if you have to restore and you need to use stop at, these are the elements that you, the stop at is most likely you're gonna start this, and then you're gonna, for example, carry on with the number of files you want to restore, where the potential time, for example, if the issue occur 5 minutes before, and you know there is a differential backup 5 minutes before that was exist, and you want to include that data there as well. So you have to leave it in a no recovery mode. You have to put this one. What else I can say? Yep. So, and then you can restore, you can use RDS as a, replica. For example, you can have your on-premise data, you sending your transaction log to RDS. For you to restore that transaction log, you have to use RDS restore log. And then I can have a session when it comes to disaster recovery for on-premise to RDS or even to Azure. So we can discuss that another time. So these are exactly what you will need to execute. Yeah, and then here's the thing, guys. I have some good scripts that will allow you to, for example, get information. Come on. If you want to get information about the trace, I was about to show you how can you run profiler, how can you troubleshoot but we don't have time. But the scripts are there, and then there's an explanation on how to get them done. And then for administration tasks, there's a tons of stop OCG that I think you guys have to be aware of. You understand? So like if you want to show the configuration of your instance, give me one second. Okay. So this is what you will need to execute. It's gonna tell you so many what is being enabled and everything, right? As you can see, if you wanna enable backup compression, you can see this is not enabled, so you can quickly go in it and enable it. And then let's say if you wanna drop a database, you wanna shrink MDB, if you wanna rename a database, this is the plug that you have to use. You wanna set the database online if it's offline, this is what you have to use. You wanna change the DB owner, you wanna add, for example, you wanna read the error log. Let's say something occur, you wanna read SQL Server error log from RDS. This is what you're gonna do. Yeah. So there's a tons of scripts. This is deadlock detection. I was gonna show you how can you do deadlock detection. I think I'm 3 minutes over. Let me quickly close this, and I'm gonna share with you my slide deck, so this way we can proceed with the presentation. We can finish with it, guys. I'm about to share a different screen. Kevin, can you please confirm that you're able to see my screen?
Not seeing it yet. Are you sharing your, there we go. It says demo. Yep.
Perfect, perfect. So if you're looking at here, guys, to monitor SQL Server, there's a tons of things you can do. That's what we just see. There's it supports SQL Server native tools, and then it supports third-party tools and even free community tools. It is support Cloudwatch, we just saw. It is support enhanced monitoring. This is at the OS level, and then you have performance insight that I just show you that give you access to the query and everything. You want to know the user, what they did, and everything. And then when it comes to best practices, this is just a recap. Always put, for example, your database under his own VPC. And then make sure you work very close with cloud infrastructure team or architect team in case if there is something you on top of it, you understand? And then based on the business requirement and application functionality, you need to set parameter group and option group appropriated based on this information. And you have to understand encryption traffic, you have to think, do you really need it? And it's always best when it comes to workload. If you want to optimize your environment for memory optimization, you have to think of R5 and Z1D at DB instance farming.
Sean, I think we lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can.
Yes, sorry about that. My internet dropped down. You know, like I said, I expected to occur so frequently, but thank God it's just occur at the end because I'm using, you know, a free service, and then yeah, a public service. So because my whole thing shut down this morning, sorry about that, guys. If your environment is very small, you can keep T1 and C3 DB family. But if you have large enterprise, for example, if you have large enterprise class, database where you want to optimize for CPU and memory. So that's when you have to think of X1E family. Okay, guys. So, and then what else? Just for your information, always architect your environment based on business requirement and application functionalities, because I have seen tons of people have to redo their work, re-architect their environment because there's information they didn't get. If you want to leverage cloud environment with a cost-effective mindset, so you need to always go with information and business information and application requirement. And guys, I would love you to share your feedback when I post the video, or if you want, you can chat. You know, if you feel like something I should touch base and I didn't, just put it me on the chat. You understand, and feel free and honest with me. That will help me optimize my presentation. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. And if you want to keep in touch with me, feel free to do that. And thank you for joining us. And thank you, Kevin, for hosting this session for me. If you guys have any question, Kevin, feel free to let me know if there are any questions.